And I believe I could keep that pace up actually for quite a while. I still was nowhere near, what I would think of as my max effort. So like I say, I'm going to throw some numbers out there that everybody uses these number scales, and mine are purely subjective and, like I say, somewhat limited experience. But like I say, on a paddling, this thing's a 7, 8. The more I paddle it, the more I want to raise the rating to at least 8. It's easy to paddle. And as far as maneuverability, I mean, I can just shove that paddle down, and I mean, I can turn this thing just kind of like I was turning my flint. It just, it just takes nothing to turn this. Tracking, it's got to be a 7. I don't have a lot of experience to base it on, but I mean, I can let go of not let go of the wheel. I can stop paddling, and I mean, this thing just glides along, which really amazed me. I honestly thought the minute I stopped paddling, and I really figured it would just be like almost like throwing a drift sock out in the water or something. I just figured it would quit moving, but it doesn't. So, on the tracking, it's phenomenal. Fishability, this thing's a 10. I mean, I just don't know how they say that the Frontier's a little better for once you're where you want to be. I just don't know how it could be, but I mean, I guess maybe they're just talking about a little more space. But to me, it's a 10. I can turn any direction I want in this swivel seat. I can cast pretty much any direction I want. There's not a doubt in my mind, if I wanted to anchor, I could anchor front or back into the wind, and I would have no problems. I mean, the thing, just, it wouldn't take on water. It wouldn't be at all dangerous. Fishability on this thing is a 10. On deck storage, 10. I mean, in the hull storage obviously is, either a 1 or a 0, because it just wasn't designed for that. Like I say, I believe that little hatch in the back, I think they even call it an access hatch. Riggability on this thing, I'd call it a 10. That's another one of those things, I guess, maybe subjective. Some people probably would rather have like a pod and a center console and hatches and stuff like that. I don't. This thing's got, I think they said 23 feet or something of gear track in it. I think I'm using 6 inches of it, but I'll use more. But you can just put your stuff anywhere you want. And I mean, it just don't get any better for rigging in my mind. I just think that you can rig this thing any way that you want. Appearance, which I never see rated, but it's actually kind of important to me, and I think it's a gorgeous boat. I think it has beautiful lines when you're looking at it. It's just a good looking boat. I could take or leave the paint job. I've seen a lot better looking camo paint jobs in one than this. This looks to me like on Friday afternoon they said get that thing out of here, and the guy just kind of grabbed some black paint and threw on there. But anyway, that's here and there, because it's going to get all scratched to crap anyway. Another thing I was worried about with this, I'd seen a couple comments on, was whether this very aggressive channeling in the boat was going to make it hard to stand up. It does not at all. It's got great, I assume this is some kind of, deck, I can't remember what they call it, but the stuff you can buy, the sea decking, I believe they call it. It's probably their own brand, but it's it's got amazing traction. It's wet, and it's still got amazing traction. And when I stand up, I don't even notice the channels at all. I mean, they're just great. Throwing the fish finder in that, this is a Garmin EchoMap UHD 6.3, I think. So it's got a fairly big transducer, not like the live scope stuff or anything like that, but I mean, it's got a fairly good sized transducer. It was too big of a transducer for my flint scupper. I had to use one of the sidearm mounts, which I hated. I loved the flint. I hated that sidearm mount. I just threw a couple of wire ties, big industrial wire ties in there, and it's just on the regular trolling motor mount and just hanging on the wire ties. Works great. Run the cable up, and I'll probably clean it up just a little bit. I rigged it this morning before I left the house, so I didn't spend a lot of time on it. But I mean, I'll probably clean that up a little bit and try to rig it a little nicer than that. I'm gonna throw a few under the bridge while I'm just talking. But like I say, riggability, fishability on this thing is just a home run. This has metal gear track, which I never had any problem with the plastic gear tracks, but I had my rod holders mounted onto a plastic cutting board that I had mounted onto my gear tracks, just because I was always worried those plastic ones would pop loose when I was trolling, if I caught a decent fish, or especially if I caught a catfish, which if you stay with me, that's what I intend on doing more of. So I'm gonna try to get into catfishing this year. A guy named Kayak Catfish, I started watching his videos when I was bored one day, and I got fascinated with him. If you haven't seen the guy, he's amazingly entertaining and a tremendous fisherman, and he seems like a really nice guy. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm sitting kind of sideways with my feet up on the gunnels, and man, I just don't feel any instability, whatever I'm trying to say. It doesn't at all feel like that I'm going to tip. I have no doubt that if you tried, you can tip this thing. I mean, I've seen guys tip, 12, 13, 14 foot long John boats. So, I mean, I'm sure this kayak can be tipped. There's a guy on YouTube named Alex, I think it's Figueroa or something like that. He seems like a real nice guy. He does a series of will it tips. I don't think he's done one on this yet, but he did one on the Frontier, and I'm sure he will do one on this. It's a fascinating one to watch. He obviously likes to get wet, and obviously likes to make YouTube videos. I don't like to get wet, so I'll leave the will it tip video to him, because he will just keep leaning and trying to tip it until he does. But this thing, like I say, so far today, I have not even in the slightest felt like there was any chance of accidentally tipping this over. I'm sure it can be done. Like I say, there's just no kayak, but like I say, the stability on this thing to me is mind-blowing. I actually always thought the Flint was a very, very stable boat. I don't have much to reference it to other than John boats and canoes, things like that. I don't have a lot of kayak experience, but I was always impressed with the Flint. I mean, I had it out a lot. Especially my first one. The second one I only had out once or twice, but the first one was a 2018, and I mean, I had it out a lot. The second one was a 20, and then right after I bought it, these came up on the video showing the unveiling, and I was just immediately infatuated with it. But like I say, I just was always impressed with the stability of the little Flint. And this thing is, I mean, it's just in a whole different league than the Flint. But then, I mean, it should be. It's 8 inches wider. If you're a big guy or really in any way phobic about getting wet, this is definitely a must-consider boat if you're wanting a paddle craft. That being said, I'm sure everybody knows this, but they sell basically a drop-in pedal drive for this called the Pivot Drive, and then they also I believe have several companies like Torpedo and people like that make trolling motors, for kayaks that'll work on this perfect, because it has a square stern. And they you can even on this, I think, put a 2.5 horse outboard. I don't know why in the world a guy'd want to do that, but I mean, I guess if you are in an area where you really have to travel a long ways from where you launch, or if you go river fishing, I guess, and you don't have two vehicles and you end up way down river and don't want to paddle back. But to me, it seems like if you didn't want to paddle, that the pedal drive system would be enough. But there again, like I say, I don't know. Obviously, people use it or they wouldn't sell it. I actually just dropped my paddle, putting it in the paddle clip, and without thinking, I leaned way over and reached in and grabbed it. Again, absolutely zero issue. Didn't even get close to flipping this thing.